Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny is a remaster of 2002's swordplay-focused action-adventure title with a heavy helping of classic survival horror. This past week, I've had the pleasure of sinking several hours into the game to bring you my thoughts, courtesy of the kind folk at Capcom. This is my first proper stint with the game, having only played the 2019's remaster of the original and Dawn of Dreams back in the day, so I went into this game with fresh eyes. You might have heard of Onimusha being referred to as Resident Evil set in historical Japan with demons and aberrant beasts and monsters instead of zombies, cheesy one-liners, and lab coats. That much, of course, is very much true, featuring beautifully dark and grotesque pre-rendered backgrounds, low polygon character models, puzzles, and a lot of action. You should keep your wits about you when entering the world of Onimusha. While it certainly is a product of its time, being a remaster of course, these features I feel imbue the game with a sense of charm that you just don't really see anymore. It might just be me and my limited knowledge, but there's not much out there that plays quite like Onimusha other than Onimusha. Much like the original, Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny blends a supernatural narrative with frenetic swordplay as you slice your way through an abundance of demons on your quest. The game puts you in a role of the new protagonist, Jubei Yagyu, as he sets out to take vengeance on Nobunaga Oda, and of course, his insurmountable army of demonic fiends. The story here is rather straightforward. Well, not necessarily actually, but I'll get onto that in just a bit. But ultimately what I mean to say is, there is enough here to enjoy gameplay-wise, even if you're not fully invested into the story and its characters. The core gameplay loop here essentially requires you to explore thoroughly, keeping an eye out for locked doors, key items, and puzzles that you might need to progress forward. All the while, of course, you're being hunted and attacked by demons known as Genma. Jubei initially begins with nothing but a katana, but soon builds out an arsenal of weapons that you can use to slay these demons. When defeated, they spew forth a set of floating orbs, which you're able to absorb at the hold of a button for a myriad of different effects. Red orbs effectively act as your experience points. These are going to be used to upgrade your weapons, and new to Onimusha 2, also be used to upgrade your armor. Blue souls or orbs are used to fill your magic meter, allowing you to use weapon-specific special attacks to decimate your foes, and yellow are used to restore any lost health. There is one more type of orb, but I'll also get onto those in just a second. The combat here isn't going to set the world on fire. You've got a standard attack, a charged attack, you're able to block and of course dodge as well, but I'd have to say it's fairly methodical. You're often outnumbered, and enemies will constantly and continuously take the place of their fallen compatriots until you whittle down their numbers entirely. You'll come across a slew of different types of demons, which will ultimately force you to pick and choose which weapon is the right fit for the job, but also which enemies you're going to want to take out first. I think where the combat really begins to shine is with the critical or the Isen technique. By timing one of your own attacks with an attack from an enemy that is just about to hit you, think something like a parry for example, you're able to instantly kill that enemy with just one touch. And if any other enemies are present in the vicinity, you're then able to chain these criticals to take them all out at the same time. It's a rather straightforward risk versus reward gambit, but the game does incentivize you to take this risk by providing an abundance of orbs from the enemies that have been felled. During my time with it, if I had to fault the game for anything, it would definitely have to be the fixed camera angles not working all too well with the enemies. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy and love these pre-rendered backgrounds. As I said, there's something dark and beautiful about them, but it's not a great feeling to have that camera shift mid-combat, leading you to not be able to see an incoming enemy attack, and basically incur damage that otherwise you would have been able to avoid. As I said, it very much is a product of its time, for better or for worse. But if you've played the first game, then a lot of this will pretty much sound familiar. Where Onimusha 2 distances itself from the original lies in some of the new game mechanics that it introduces. The first of which, and in fact one of the largest, is the whole new Affinity system. Throughout your time in the game, you'll run into several different side characters or allies who you can chat to, interact with, and also provide gifts to. This in turn affects this hidden affinity system in the game that continuously churns on in the background. This can affect small things like having certain characters appear in combat alongside you if their affinity is high enough, coming in to help you out from time to time against the Genma, to even altering the story and cutscenes through multiple branching paths. This whole Affinity system was an unexpected change coming off the back of the first game, and ultimately I feel like it helped serve the purpose of making this a sequel that feels grander in scale. During certain moments I'd wonder what would occur if I had built that Affinity elsewhere with other allies, and it even had me already considering what characters I'd like to potentially focus on during any other further subsequent playthroughs, so I could see what the differences were. One other cool addition that I guess is far more tangible is the ability to change into an Onimusha for a limited period of time, on demand after you've accumulated enough of the new purple or/soul type. Jubei basically enters what you could consider some sort of a devil trigger, and he becomes pretty much indestructible, and he dishes out a whole lot of damage. And for you die-hard Onimusha 2 fans out there, they've added one addition that certainly isn't for the faint of heart. And that is of course the brand new Hell mode, where Jubei effectively dies in one hit. Definitely not a mode to trifle with should you decide to dabble in it. As this is a remaster of course, you can expect a suite of quality of life changes beyond the higher resolution to make your experience that much smoother. Autosaves are now there to avoid frustration should you perish in combat or forget to save after a lengthy gaming session. Cutscenes are now skippable without having to have viewed them first, which saves a lot of time. You now have the ability to switch weapons outside of a menu, I think much like the original game. And you also have this brand new gallery mode where you can view a lot of the concept art for the game in detail, alongside being able to access a selection of the game's soundtrack. Coming at this game from the viewpoint of somebody who's not played it before, it feels like there is enough added here when it comes to quality of life changes and new additions for both new players and fans alike. Having really enjoyed my time with the remaster of the original game, Onimusha Warlords, I was glad to see the sequel essentially stick so close to what made that first one work so well for me, whilst also iterating and expanding in certain areas. I will say, however, that if you were expecting the sequel to deviate hard from the foundations of the original, you might end up being a little disappointed if you give Onimusha 2 a shot. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely not a modern game by any standards. I feel like that's a pretty silly comparison to make though. If you go into this knowing that it basically is a PS2 game at heart, just sort of tweaked and brought up to spec for modern platforms, then you should have no issues whatsoever. But that about does it for this preview. Here's hoping that remasters of 3 and 4 are eventually on their way, and after diving back into the world of Onimusha, I'm that much more excited for the new title dropping next year, Way of the Sword. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, do leave a like and consider subscribing, as there's more Onimusha content on the way. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.